Hi guys and welcome to the channel. My name is Nick O'Leary. Now, last year I made a video on MBUX doing a full walkthrough guide, and a few of you have requested that I do a video on NTG 5.5 Command and kind of doing the exact same thing but on that system instead. So that's what we're going to cover today. Now, due to this video's length and detail, of course, going through each section, it is quite a long one. However, I recommend you have a look on the banner down below or on your screen now. You'll see there are different timestamps for each of these sections. So naturally, what we're going to cover through today is Navi, radio, media, telephone, connect, vehicle and system. So that's what we'll cover through today on each of these sections, and of course use the timestamp just along the bottom to zip through to your preferred section. But without further ado, let's go. Right guys, so once you're sat in your Mercedes-Benz, as I said, this is the walkthrough guide, so we're going to focus on the center screen here today, and using the screen is really easy. So I am going to use the wheel today using this little thing just here, and you'll notice there's back and home buttons located on this wheel. So these back and home buttons directly control this screen, so pressing the home button will bring up the home screen, and then the back button will go back a step back to where you were before. Now, if you would rather, you can also use this touchpad here. There are also back and home buttons just at the bottom which do exactly the same thing. Or if you like to have both hands on the steering wheel, you can control the center screen, or left screen in this case, on the steering wheel. So there's back and home buttons on here and a relevant touchpad to do the same thing. Now, controlling the right hand screen, that is on the right hand side of the steering wheel. There's a back and home button for this screen only and a touchpad for this one as well. But of course, we're going to focus on the center screen, the NTG 5.5 Command. So, making a start, if we press the home button, this is your home screen, and this houses virtually all the buttons located in the middle of the car. So you've got Navi, radio, media, telephone, and then a couple of extra things on here, and including vehicle settings. So, if we start on navigation. So then guys, on the Navi screen, when you first press that Navi button or navigation button, it will look a bit like this. So compared to the previous version of Command, if you're upgrading from NTG 5, you'll remember that there were kind of menus on the top of the screen and then on the bottom of the screen, and you use the wheel to nudge up and down to get to those menus. As this is an upgrade, it is slightly different. You'll notice that there's a menu on the left hand side of the screen. So quite simply, using the wheel, you just rock or nudge that wheel to the left. So if I nudge that to the left, it will bring up that menu. And to be fair, it's actually quite similar to before. So you've got the enter destination button there, and then a few other things just underneath. So let's go through them. So enter destination is how you use the sat nav to start. So if I click this wheel in, this will bring up the search. So say we were going to type in a postcode here. This is a universal search box, so let's just type in BH15. Just remember to put the space in, which is on the top right hand corner of this keyboard, and then 2BD, and it's found a match. Now, next thing you do to get the sat nav going is nudge up to select destination, click that in, and that's it done.
The route is being calculated. Make a U-turn if possible, and then turn right.
Now, that is the sat nav all programmed in on that destination, so very easy, a lot easier than before. Now, to cancel this sat nav, if you quite simply nudge this wheel left, just like we did a second ago, there's the cancel button right there, so you can cancel that sat nav completely, literally in just a couple of buttons. Now, say you wanted the sat nav on and you didn't want the voice, for example, just down underneath here there's a thing called driving recommendation. And basically this is a mute and unmute button. So if you look really closely, there's an arrow with a picture of a speaker. If I click that, that's muted, and click it again.
Make a U-turn if possible, and then turn right.
And she'll unmute. So I'm just going to cancel this sat nav just for now. Now, and then we're just going to go through a couple of menus just underneath. So let's say that you wanted to program that as your home, for example, or work or something, or even just a general favorite. With the sat-nav, you have to have been there first, or at least programmed it in on the sat-nav. So now that we've programmed it in once and we've been there, so to speak, if we nudge this to the left and go this time to the menu underneath previous and other destinations, in here you'll see a couple of options: previous destinations, global favourites, which will be where your favourites are stored. But we're going to go to previous destinations first, and there is this one destination that we have been to or programmed in once. So if I nudge this to the right, you'll notice there are a couple of options there: save as global favourite, save as home, and save as work. Now I'm just going to save that as home just very, very quickly, and you'll notice it saves it in this kind of weird menu here. Now, just for argument's sake, if you just spin it all the way to the left hand side and click it in, and then that's saved. However, this is what's called the global favourites menu. So I'm just going to press the back button and go all the way back to the start. And that home button I mentioned at the start, if you press the home button just in the middle, and you'll notice you'll be on this screen here, the favourites menu is on the very, very bottom. So if you nudge down, this menu is where all of your favourites are stored. So in here, there are a few favourites in here at the moment where you can change the colours of the lights and things like that, but your sat-nav destinations are saved in here. So you can actually delete all of these here, all these other things, and just have your sat-nav destinations, which I know a lot of people do. But what you can also do, if you nudge down, you can also rename this if you saved it as a global favourite. So obviously if you save it as home or work, those are going to have home and work names. Save it as a global favourite, and this is how you rename sat-nav favourites. So if I press the back button, go back to that navy screen, nudge left, go to previous and other destinations, and if I go to global favourites, you will see all of your favourites listed here, very, very similar to that other screen we just saw. So that is how you save destinations on the sat-nav. Now, while we're in this menu as well, on the previous destinations, obviously we've covered the previous and global favourites. POIs are points of interest. So if you don't happen to know the postcode or the road name or the place you're visiting, you can press this and then go through and search for different things. So things like a filling station, for example. This will search all the fuel stations nearby. It even shows you arrows in the direction that they are based on where you're facing right now, which is quite cool. Click on one of the menu options and it'll even show you the phone number just in case you needed to phone them. So that's pretty cool. Pressing the back button once more, we'll go back once and go back again. And as you can see here, there's a few other points of interest that you can search for. If one of your points of interest isn't on this menu here, go all the way to the bottom and there's a section there called All Categories. This page goes on and on and on, so there's loads of things on here that you can search for. So literally shopping centres, supermarkets, swimming pools, golf courses, all sorts. So that's how you can search it on there. And these get updated along with the online map updates. And with NTG 5.5 Command, you get that updated free of charge for the first 3 years, certainly in the UK, although just double check with your local Mercedes-Benz dealer because that may vary in other countries. So if I press the back button just once and press it again, on this next page, the contacts thing that's greyed out on here is if you have paired your phone and you have address information on the address book on the contact. So if I had my name in there, Nick O'Leary, and had my address in there and had my phone paired, you can actually go in here and browse for a relevant contact and literally navigate to their address at the click of a button. So that's quite cool. If you plan to be doing any off-roading or anything, you can actually put in geo coordinates for the latitude and longitude as well, just in case you need to get to a precise position on the map. Going back to the main navigation screen here, we have intermediate destinations and info. Now basically this is if you're going to do what I'd call like a tour, for example. So the way this works is you put in your final destination first, and then you add your stops along the way. So if I was to go to, I don't know, another Mercedes-Benz dealership nearby, say Salisbury for example, I'll type in their postcode SP1 2JS, and then I would put in a stop along the way, or maybe need to go to the shops or something, and you can put in these little routes. Say maybe you were going to do a tour across the UK or something, you'd put in a postcode of where you're going or the address, and then you can put in these stops. where you want to stop, and it will show you the arrival time and of course all of the arrival times of your stops as well, which is quite clever. So to do that, if we go intermediate destinations and info, we can search for a destination here. So let's do that postcode I said, so SP1, just remember that space again, 2JS. There's that postcode at the very, very top, so I'm going to nudge up and select that one. Set as destination. Now what I want to do is search for an intermediate destination, so like a stop. So I'm going to go here and let's type in a Pool. So literally just the town down the road. So I'm going to stop there to get some lunch or something. It's found it already. Let me just put in the E at the very, very top there. Click it in and then set as destination. So here you can see we've got Salisbury set as the final destination, but we're going to stop just down the road here. So you can add loads of these different stops, and of course if you made a mistake, if you nudge right, you can then move this down and swap them around or adjust your stops accordingly. Once you're done, hit Start Route Guidance, and then it will navigate you on your tour through all of the different stops. After this, there's a menu called Route and Position. So going into this one, you can select an alternative route. So the alternative route is used if you maybe knew there were some roadworks or something and the live traffic system hadn't picked that up yet, or you just wanted to take a detour. So you can adjust that in here. There's usually 2 or 3 options to choose on an alternative route. Avoid options is slightly different. So this is if you want to avoid a specific area. So you can go in here and actually specify an area to avoid. And then underneath this are motorways, ferries, motor rail, tunnels, unpaved roads, and also vignette roads as well. And even toll roads, you can avoid these. So if you wanted to avoid, for example, a popular one in the UK is the M6 toll. If you wanted to avoid that toll and take a slightly longer way around, but obviously not use that toll, you can go in here and actually select no tolls whatsoever, and then the car will reroute you a different way. So quite clever really. Underneath this is a thing called route settings. So route settings are basically how you can adjust how the car does your route. So most of the time, and by default, you should always leave this on fast route and also have the tick box in the avoid traffic jam automatically. These are my recommended settings for all sat navs. If you would rather have a little bit more control over what the car is doing and adjusting your route, you can have this one on, which is ask before changing the route to avoid a traffic jam. So when you have your live traffic on, this car will then automatically reroute you automatically if there's any delays or road closures. But if you'd rather the car tell you that or ask you first, put a tick box in this box and then you'll still have all the live traffic capabilities, but the car's going to tell you instead. For me personally, I just want the sat nav on, and I want it to give me the fastest route possible every single time, and I just follow the blue line on along the road, and that's that really. So if you want a bit more control, you can of course enable that on there. Now, eco route and short route. So eco route is going to try and keep you at higher speed roads, so things maybe like around about the 40-60 mark. So it won't be trying to take you down any like kind of windy roads or anything. So for example here, if I put eco route on, the car sat nav will probably navigate me along this dual carriageway here in Poole. If I was going to Bournemouth, it will take me that kind of long way round, but it's going to be more economical because I'm going to be staying at a higher speed for longer. So that's what that does. And short route is kind of navigating you almost as the crow flies, so you're going to be taking lots of short windy roads. It won't be economical that way, but it's going to be the shortest distance to your destination. Personally, I leave it on fast route, does a mixture of the two, and of course does your live traffic as well. After this, there is an option for a compass. So if you are into some detailed statistics, you can view this and see which direction you're facing, and even show you how many satellites that you're connected to as well. Currently right now I'm sat in the Mercedes-Benz of Poole showroom, and I've got 11 to 12 satellites connected, 13 now, just pinpointing where I am on a map. So of course the more satellites you have, the more accurate your sat-nav's going to be. So oh look, now 14, so yes, constantly changing all the time. After this, we come on to the options menu. So going into options, we have a map menu here. Now you can get onto that map menu actually from the main screen. So if I press the back button, when you are on the map navigating, if you just press the wheel in, it will bring up that same menu. Now this is actually how you change the orientation of the map. Now if you're pretty good with your map skills, you can have it on north up, and you'll see that the map is going to be fixed like this, and the map won't turn depending on the direction of your car is facing. Now I find that a little bit confusing, so what I do is either have this on one of those two 2D, which is just going to be a camera kind of looking straight down, or you can have it on 3D and it'll kind of show you kind of like a camera almost following behind the car like that. So 2D or 3D is my preference. Now underneath this, if I nudge this menu to the left, this is going to save my current position. So say you had a new house built, for example, and your postcode isn't on the system yet, or you were just, I don't know, off the beaten track or something and just wanted to save a specific location, maybe a favourite walk or something, you can literally save that position right here, and that's going to save that under your previous destinations, and then you can go in there and rename that to anything you fancy. Pressing it one more time, you can see here at the bottom there are some pins. So these are the points of interest which show on the map, so you can toggle these overlays on or off. Underneath this, there's a picture of a cloud with the sun. Yes, this car does actually show you the weather for these specific locations. Although you could just ask a smartphone to show you that, you can see it on there. Of course, that will need to be linked to your Mercedes Me account to provide that information. And then underneath there are two cars which show you live traffic. So this car is not registered yet, so it won't show any of that information. But when you have your live traffic on, if there are any delays, you'll see red along the map, but green for clear roads. But of course, that's regardless of whether you have that option on or off. You'll find that the sat-nav will always reroute you automatically as long as you have that live traffic and you've got that option ticked on the previous menu we were just in. Now going back to that options screen, if I go back into here, next one down is map content. Again, this is very similar to what we were just looking at on here, but basically you can toggle some more advanced sections on the map screen. And then underneath this, there's a thing called announcements. So these are announced traffic warnings and street names. So that's basically the sat-nav talking to you when you've got a sat-nav route on. You can toggle those on or off. Text information is basically what you see at the very, very bottom of the screen. So if you'd rather not have anything, you can just have that completely off. By default, it's going to show you your current road that you're on. So I'm not on a road at the moment, so it's just saying Pool. But if I was on, say, the A350 just here, it would say Holes Bay Road, and you can toggle that on and off, or adjust maybe even coordinates if you wanted that coordinate screen there. And then you can also put your climate control along the bottom as well. So again, user preference, whatever you fancy along the bottom. Now personally, the only thing I would probably use and definitely toggle on and off in options is the auto zoom button. I would recommend actually have that on. By default, the car actually arrives with sat-nav kind of like this. So what I would personally do is have the auto zoom on. Now you can zoom in and out using this wheel, so when you're not on the menu, just spin this wheel in and out and you can zoom out and even see what planet you're on as well. You can zoom out quite far away. But yeah, auto zoom is better, I feel, because it will zoom out the faster you go, but zoom in the slower you go. So you can see a bit more detail on the roads that you're making turns on and that kind of thing. And then underneath this, next intersecting street basically shows you some information on the screen of your next turn when you have the sat-nav on. I don't need to know that information personally, I just follow the blue road, so user preference at the end of the day. Reserve fuel level basically shows you a warning message on this screen if you hit the reserve fuel. So if, for example, you hit the reserve fuel, you'll get that message come up and it says, would you like to search for fuel stations? Just tap yes and it will show you the fuel stations. I don't have a problem with that on, so I think that's okay. Underneath this is live traffic subscription info. So in here, This is how you can see how long your live traffic is valid for. As I said, this is a brand new car, it doesn't have that just yet, but if it's a brand new car, you get 3 years of live traffic information free of charge, included with new cars. Definitely in the UK, obviously, again, just double check with your local Mercedes-Benz for other countries. Underneath this is map version. So one thing I haven't covered is, of course, map updates. So you again get map updates free of charge for the first 3 years. Of course, this says 2020 at the moment, but there are 2021 maps out. As soon as this car is linked to a Mercedes Me account and activated, you'll start to get the map updates, and they'll just download automatically. Now, the map updates will download and install automatically for the country of residence. So in the UK, they'll install automatically. So if you wanted to install any other maps, speak with your local Mercedes and they can advise on how to do that. And then underneath that is just information on navigation. Basically what this does is just kind of bring up the manual showing you how a few things work. But hopefully I've covered a few things in this video which should save you having to go in that menu. So fingers crossed anyway. But that covers pretty much everything on the sat-nav just here. Of course, guys, if you want to know anything else, just message me in the comments down below and I'll get back to you. But now, on to the next section, radio. So guys, on the radio section, just before I go through all the radio settings and things, I will just cover a very important fact on the radio. So in Mercedes-Benz cars, the radios tune automatically to all of the radio stations that are available where you are right now. So there's no like auto tune button to scan all the radio stations. It tunes constantly, and when new radio stations are transmitting or when there's new ones available, they'll appear on the screen. So to navigate through them, just spin the wheel around like this and it will go through all the radio stations. Personally, I actually prefer to click the wheel in, or the touchpad if you're going to use that one, and you'll see a list which I feel is just a little bit easier to navigate through, and you can find your preferred one and click it in, and then it's on. Now, I've got it muted just at the moment, just while we do this video, but yeah, click it in and it'll be playing straight away. You could spin it around to the next one and then that's playing straight away there, but again, user preference on how you do it. So that menu that we just had in sat-nav on the left hand side, very, very similar. If I nudge this wheel left, it's going to bring up a few things. So first off, we have FM and DAB radio stations. So this is basically a list of all the radio stations, which we've pretty much just done. There's another way of viewing that list there. So I'll leave that on there as that is. Nudging left and going back to the next one is how you save presets. Now, most commonly in some older cars, there used to be a numeric keypad in the middle here, and you used to be able to hold your number, if you remember, and preset your all your favourite radio stations and press your number and it'll load up. Now, in modern cars, there are no numbers now because everything's all digital. So to save presets, find your preferred ones. So say if we wanted to save, I don't know, Radio 1, for example, have it playing, nudge this left and go to the presets menu. In here is how you save and store current stations in the presets. So if I click this in, you'll hear that beep, and then that is saved. And notice now, when you're navigating through the radio stations, there is now a star here, just on the right hand side of the name. So that means you've saved it as a preset. So for argument's sake, let's just do Radio 2. So if I nudge this left and go to presets, you can store that station as a preset. Click it in again, you'll get another beep, and then that's all done. Now, say you were going to do Radio 3, but you made a mistake and did Radio 4 by accident. So I'll whiz through that and do that really quickly. You can delete that by going onto the left-hand side, go back into that presets menu, find the one you made the mistake on, and you can nudge that right, and then you can either delete that one or move it, so you can adjust their position, put 4 at the top and then 1, then 2, or anything like that. But I'm going to delete that one just for now, and it'll be back to those 1 and 2 again. So, loading up your presets. Now, it's important to note that when you're on the radio screen, there are 2 views on viewing your radio stations. So, for example, at the moment we have every radio station that's available right now, A to Z. So everything you see here is what you can listen to. Now, the other view is to view just your presets. So if you remember just a second ago, I had BBC Radio 1 and Radio 2. If I nudge this left and go to your presets, watch over here on the right hand side. When I click this in and select one of these, see there's a radio antenna with a town. If I click this in, now there's the radio antenna and town, but a star, and the star means you're viewing your presets only. So remember I saw everything A to Z there, all the 40, 50 radio stations there. Now look, there's only your favourites. I've only got 2 on here at the moment. So on here, you'll just see your presets because that's stars here. Now to go back to everything A to Z, so you've got these 2 views, A to Z, or your presets. So go to the left, then go to radio source, which is, funny enough, the next menu down, and in here you can select FM DAB radio or AM radio. Click in here and that star's going to disappear, and now you're back to normal. So just remember there's 2 views on the radio station. There's everything A to Z, and then the second one are your presets, mainly because that number keypad thing isn't here in new cars now. So 2 views there for the radio station. Now if I nudge this left and go down to the next one is called sound. Now sound allows you to adjust the equalizer primarily. Now I do recommend that people do this because quite a few people just leave the equalizer set at 0. Now this one has the Mercedes-Benz upgraded Burmester or Burmeister sound system. So in here you can adjust the treble, the mid and the bass, and you quite simply just nudge this wheel left or right to go through these different menu options. The reason why I say you should definitely change this is because everyone's ears perceive sound differently. I would find your favourite song, play it from your phone or something, or find your favourite radio station and adjust this to how you think it should sound. It's your car after all, so definitely make some changes on there. And if you're lucky enough to have the upgraded sound system, it's pretty clear, it's pretty loud, so definitely one of my favourite sound systems in the Mercedes-Benz range. Underneath this is balance and fader. Honestly, I don't know why that's still on cars these days. I think it used to be when people upgraded their speakers and had some maybe like different branded speakers in the front to the rear or something like that. Basically, you adjust the sound. You can make it more prominent in the front or more prominent in the rear, and even move it left and right as well. Honestly, in a factory-fitted Mercedes-Benz sound system, there is no need to do that. Unless, of course, you do want the sound more focused towards the front or the back. You can adjust that on there just in case you want to. Automatic volume adjustment, I do actually recommend this be on. This adjusts the volume of the radio or your music playing off your phone based on your speed. And also does do a few things with the sat-nav as well. Will dim it down automatically when the sat-nav's talking to you. So you've got sat-nav on, you've got the music blaring, it will dim the music down so you can hear the sat-nav, but also when you go a little bit faster you'll get the tyre noise from the cars when travelling at speed. This will basically increase the volume just a little bit, just in a subtle way, so you can still hear it. Surround sound is only found on the upgraded sound systems, so if you're lucky enough to have that, you can enable this, and if you do have that, I do actually recommend that be on. Does just give the music a little bit more of a punch. So sound focus I think is also only available on the Burmester surround sound system as well, or one of the upgraded systems. With this it's very similar to that fader. You can adjust the sound focus to be at the front or the rear of the car. Personally I prefer all seats, let everyone kind of experience the same sort of sound. And then other sound settings lets you go into here and adjust some specific audio settings on how loud the driving recommendation volume is, so that's the sat-nav, but this is actually found in one of the menus later, so we'll quickly go through that on one of the other sections later in the video. So under this we also have a thing called slideshow. Basically what this does is show you the pictures on the radio station that's being transmitted. The one that I'm selected on at the moment isn't transmitting anything, so it's just going to show you a default picture. Not that I think anyone needs to use that, to be honest, but it's there in case you need it. Underneath this there's an options menu, and basically what this does, display radio text information is definitely something I would recommend. So as you can see here, it just disappeared off the screen, so there's no radio information on there, but if you go to options and have that enabled, that's going to show you the song that's playing at the moment, as long as the radio station is transmitting it to everyone. So that's quite useful, especially if you're listening to the radio and you hear your favourite song or a song that you haven't heard of before. You can find out the information of the song on there. Go back to options again. Frequency fix is basically, I don't know if this applies to other countries, but certainly in the UK there are certain radio stations that use different frequencies. And as you drive around, the car's going to tune to that different frequency on that radio station. So it basically gives you the best signal. I'm not sure why you'd want to fix the frequency, but maybe you get better signal in the New Forest or something like that. So out where there isn't that much signal, you can basically have a bit more control over what the car does. Information on radio again is the manual on the screen, but hopefully, just like on the last section, you won't need to go in there to view any information. Hopefully this video has, or this section has covered the radio off. But now we finished on the radio, on to media. Next up, we've got the media section. So the media section is really easy. Basically, media lets you play any music through the sound system that isn't radio. So if I nudge this wheel here to the left, you'll see this will make a bit more sense if I go to media sources. So here at the top, you can play music via Bluetooth, and if I click that, it's going to change this icon over here to Bluetooth. Now, Bluetooth obviously is for calls, but it can also play music from your phone wirelessly to the car. Now, if you use the native audio app for your phone, so if you have an iPhone, that'll be Apple Music, you'll be able to browse your music on the screen and select things which you've stored on your phone. If you use something like Spotify or Amazon Music or other music providers, these are all third-party apps. You won't be able to do that on here unless you use Apple CarPlay, but I have covered Apple CarPlay in another video, so I'll link that up above if you wanted to have a look at that. Moving left again and going to media sources, you can play music via Bluetooth, you can play music via a memory card, so that will be an SD memory card that looks just like that on the screen. And then there are also 3 USB ports in this car. So there are 2 USB ports in here. There's also a memory card slot in here as well, which is for that one. Now in this car, because it's got a couple of extras, in here where the cup holders are, there's that other USB port here. This is the one you'd actually use for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. And because it has that, there's also a wireless charging pad in here as well. Again, that's an option in the UK, but very useful if you have a phone that has Qi wireless charging. You can basically put your phone in there and it will charge wirelessly. So quite neat, you don't have to plug your phone in then. But to be honest, that's it for the media section. There's a sound section in here again, which is virtually the same as what we just saw. You can adjust the equalizer for the media and basically for the sound systems. It's the same menu as what we just saw. Now, one thing that might be slightly different on the media section here is, depending on the specification of your car, you can plug in a memory stick or a memory card there with video files, and you can play video files on the screen, and that's what that full screen is for, just on the left hand side. That allows you to make the video full screen. Of course it would be greyed out when you're driving, but hey, it's useful in case you had any video content and wanted to play that on the screen. Going into options, basically there's that video settings thing. So there's another thing there where you can adjust the scale of the video, make it a bit bigger or a bit smaller. Again, information on media. Hopefully everything's been covered in this section on media. So now on to telephone. So this section, guys, is the telephone. So I have covered how to connect Bluetooth before on Mercedes-Benz systems. So I'll link that on the banner up above, and click on that one if you want to know how to do that. So I'm just going to very quickly link this phone. So as soon as you go onto the telephone screen, it's going to say, would you like to search for a new device? So I'm just going to make sure I'm on the Bluetooth settings menu here and search for my phone. You see it's found one of the showroom TVs, I can see. But mine should come up, Nick's i12 Pro, in just a second. There we go. Click on that one, and then I'll get a couple of prompts appearing on my phone just to connect it up. I'll do this in real time so you can see how fairly easy and fairly quick it is, and that's it all done. Easy as that. So we just put this phone away just for now, as that's all linked. So basically, when your phone's all connected, you will normally be presented with a screen like this. So let's go back to Navi, press the home button and go back to telephone. Just like that, it will look a bit like that screen there. Now that's going to bring up all of the contacts which are on your phone, and as you just spin around, you'll see it will go through all of the entire phone book, just like that. Now if I nudge this to the left, there's a search thing there. Now that is the search screen that you're on there. That's the default thing the phone always takes you to. So if I go left and then look at call list, this will show you all of the calls that you've had, received or made very recently. So it's quite a useful thing to have. Text messages, so this purely depends on your phone if it can actually send the messages to the car. With iPhones, go to settings and then Bluetooth, tap on the I where it says MB Bluetooth, and you can enable a thing called show notifications. This is how you can enable text messages to come through to the car. Samsungs, Androids, that kind of thing, when you first connect them, you'll get a prompt to enable this. Just allow or don't allow on the setup screen when you connect your phone initially. Underneath this we have the active calls, so that's greyed out at the moment because I'm not on a call, but basically there's a couple of settings in there for like volume and that kind of thing. Going to devices is how you manage all of the devices. Now on COMAND NTG 5.5 you can actually have two phones connected at the same time, and this is how you select which phone is doing what. So if I had a second phone, you'd have the name just underneath, and then you can enable that to be the second phone. So then you have two phones connected, and if anyone rings one of the two phones, you answer and hang up using the steering wheel, just a little toggle switch up and down there. And then if you're going to make a call, when you go onto the phone book screen, over on the left hand side where it says active call, where it's greyed out there, in between there'll be a switch to number 2, and you can switch phones really easily on that menu there. So it's quite clever how you can have a couple of phones connected at the same time. Just going back to that device manager, so phone 1, phone 2, that's covered. To the left of that, just in the middle there's a Bluetooth section. So say you had phone 1 and phone 2 connected, so maybe a personal phone or a work phone, or maybe your phone and a friend or family member's phone, you can have a third device connected, so maybe an iPod Touch or I don't know, another phone for example, but only use that as the music. So phone 1 and 2, and then someone in the back could be the DJ. So quite clever really. And then underneath this there is an options button, so if I go into here you can view the network provider that you're on. I think it just shows you kind of information from that. Contacts will allow you to synchronize contacts automatically. This is always going to be on, and on all new phones it will basically ask you if you want to do this when you first initially turn it on anyway. Imports and unticking that box there are purely for older phones that can't send the contacts over. For example, some very old Nokias, you can send contacts manually to the car, but if you have a modern phone it's going to do all of that automatically anyway. Name format, I definitely do change. I do change this to be first name first. By default, all Mercedes-Benz have the name format as surname first. I call everyone by their first name, so I'd rather it be shown first name, and you can adjust that in here just like this. But yeah, first name first for me. And that covers the phone section, so that is everything on there. So next up guys is the connect section. Now just before I go on to this, you'll notice there's a thing called in-car office. I will probably cover this in another video, and I know a couple of you have asked me to cover this. It basically just syncs your calendar from a Google account, or I think it was an Office 365 account. I will cover it at a later date, but all it does is literally just show your calendar on the screen. So I'll save that for a future video, but this section is connect, so it's the one just after this. So going in here, there's a thing called Mercedes-Benz apps and Mercedes-Benz link. To be honest, in the UK, most people won't really use these. The main thing you'll come into this screen for is Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. So I linked Apple CarPlay earlier, but I'll put the videos for Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in the description down below. So if you want to know more about how those work, they are wired Apple CarPlay and wired Android Auto, and you have to have the smartphone integration, so it's not standard on all models. You need to have that USB port in there. So yeah, use that on there, and that's how you connect your phone up to do that. Mercedes-Benz apps basically allows you to download a couple of apps for the car, but to be honest, it's not like an app store on a phone or anything. It basically just lets you view things like the weather, and as this car isn't connected to a Mercedes Me account, it's not going to work properly in here at the moment. But to be honest, it's not really a thing that Mercedes-Benz fully support anymore, just because smartphones just get better and better and better, and it's kind of been taken over by Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, so not really anything particularly useful in there, but that's what the Connect section does anyway. It's a really, really easy one, and that one is just your smartphone integration, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Again, just down below, the links for those two are in the description. Next up, guys, is the vehicle settings. So pressing home and going to vehicle, this is what this screen looks like here. So first of all, there's a thing called dynamic select. Now basically dynamic select lets you change the drive modes on the car. So in here, when you go into here, you can adjust that individual mode, but you can do that on that switch anyway. User notification, when you adjust that dynamic select mode, a big kind of splash screen comes up and shows you what mode you're in. Now to be honest, it does actually come up on this screen over here anyway, so you could, if you wanted to, you could have that off, and then when you move the modes, it's only going to change it over here and not interrupt what you're doing over here. So you may actually find that quite useful. I've actually had that off before and I find that quite good, but again, user preference on that one. Engine data and vehicle data. If you're really into your statistics of the car, you can view things like your battery voltage, horsepower, newton meters of torque, and even your engine oil temperature as well. But you can view the temperature over here on the right hand side anyway of the engine. So again, just a few settings and stats for you to go through. Vehicle data, if you're really into your cars, then you can view things like the accelerator pedal. So if you look at the top left hand corner of the screen now, as I accelerate, you can see how hard you're pressing the pedal, just like that. And then of course the brake pedal is just underneath, so you can press this and adjust the brake pedal, how hard you're pressing the brakes. In the main part of the screen, I can't show this completely now because the car is off, but this shows you your steering wheel angle. So as you move the steering wheel, you'll see that the degree of the steering wheel changes. So not really much useful information, to be honest, of most cars. This screen is particularly useful if you have an SUV, because it does show you your pitch as well, which can be quite useful information if you're doing any off-road excursions or anything. But for most of us, accelerator, brake pedal and the steering, I don't think many people use that, but you might use the other screen with the engine data. Moving down underneath this, there's an assistance menu here. So first off, we have ESP. That stands for Electronic Stability Program. Basically, that's when you accelerate really, really fast and you get the wheels to spin. All modern cars, especially in Europe now, have this as standard and have done since around about 2014. Basically, that's always on and helps prevent the wheels from spinning, just to keep you facing the way you're meant to be going. So the only reason you'd probably turn this off is if you are in ice and snow and your wheels aren't spinning, but you want them to spin. Say you're stuck and you need to just kind of get a bit of grip. You can adjust that on here and turn that on or off, but most cases you'll want to keep that on as a safety system. Traffic sign assist, if you're lucky enough to have this system, as you can see on the screen there is a radar or a little camera on the top here that reads road signs, and quite simply all it's looking for is a speed sign, and it will basically show you that information in here on the screen. Now the option there that says display in command, you can adjust that and get it to show you on this screen. So by default it's going to show you that on the sat nav as well. If you'd rather it just show you here on this screen, then you can turn that off. Underneath this is quite useful. Visual basically means that when you go over that speed limit, so say it's 40 over here and you go over 40, that is just going to flash like this, very, very subtly, just saying, hey, you've gone over that speed limit, and that's it. Now, in the UK, if you are caught speeding, you can get up to 12 points before you get banned. So if you have 9 points on your licence and you literally cannot get caught speeding again, if you put visual and audible on, this means it will flash at you just like normal, but it will also beep at you. Now, I don't know anyone really that has this on, but it's useful if you you speed quite a lot and you don't want to get caught speeding or anything. For me, I personally have that on visual. Now, you see it says warning threshold from 0 miles an hour. That's the next thing underneath. So at the moment, that's going to flash if you go literally just above 40. Now, that'll be if you go above 41, or if you go above 42, or if you go above 43, and so on and so forth. You can adjust that threshold so it doesn't do it straight away. But yeah, my personal preference, I would have it on 0, and I'd have it just on visual, just like normal. Underneath this is camera and parking assist. So manoeuvring assist is quite a useful feature actually. So basically the park assist system, using the sensors, is going to detect if you are near any objects, and if you start to accelerate near that object really quickly, it can just slam on the brakes really quickly. So that's quite useful if you're parking near objects and just might accidentally accelerate towards that object. It can prevent the car from actually having a crash. This is very low speeds. We're talking like up to I think about 3-4 miles an hour. I don't know the exact speed, but it's like when you're parking, like really, really slow. Underneath this is set warning tone. So in here you can adjust the volume of the sensors. One unique thing you can do on NTG 5.5 COMAND and the MBUX. You can adjust the volume here, just like that. If you wanted to get creative, you can also adjust the pitch, just like that. Now, warn early, this is definitely one of the tips and tricks I have covered before. I always recommend this be on. So Mercedes-Benz are very much in the mindset that they don't want to notify you if there's kind of nothing wrong. So with this off, when you get near an object, it's not going to beep at you until you get like really close. It's almost the width of the steering wheel, so like that close. Most parking sensors in the UK, I actually prefer them to beep a lot further back than that, because that is really, really close. So I actually prefer them to beep way, way before that, and that's what warn early does. If you have this off, it's only going to beep when you get like really close, but if you have warn early, it's going to beep several meters before that. So I recommend that be on. Audio fade out during warning tones, that's a no-brainer on that one. I would always have that on. If you've got the music playing really, really loud, this will dim your music down and anything coming out the speakers, and puts the parking sensors top priority so you can hear how close you're getting. So those two I would definitely have on. Underneath this we have auto reversing camera. I don't actually know anyone who would turn that off, but basically when you have that on, you pop the car to reverse, the camera comes on. I'm not sure why you wouldn't want that on, but it's there just in case you want to change it. Underneath we have open camera cover. So in most Mercedes-Benz, the reversing camera actually pops out from the back. So in this particular car, it's actually housed in the back of the car, behind the Mercedes-Benz badge. Now, because it hides, it literally pops out when it's needed and pops back in, it should stay relatively clean. But there could be the odd occasion if it's, literally when I arrived today to do the filming on this video, the rain was very, very heavy. So if I was reversing, maybe some water might appear on the lens of the camera. And then when it dries, you're going to get some kind of smudgy marks on there. So it's just one of those things. This allows you to open that particular camera cover. You can pop out, and then you can just grab a lint-free cloth and quickly give it a wipe over and be back to normal again. Yeah, very unlikely that's going to happen, but with the weather this morning that I experienced, then that may have happened to my own car. So that's there as an added aid, just in case you need to clean it. Now, underneath this one, there is a thing called Active Brake Assist. Now, Active Brake Assist is a feature with a red warning triangle located on the screen in front of you here. And in this car, is literally right at the bottom there. Basically, that's a radar telling you how close you are to the car in front. So If you get too close, you'll get a red warning triangle on, and you'll also get a beep if the car detects that you're about to have a crash, and can, if it's called active brake assist, even put the brakes on to prevent you from having a crash. So I would never really turn the system off unless you're doing some track driving or something, but you can adjust this system to get it to warn you early, medium, which is normal, or get it to warn you late as well. So again, your preference. I wouldn't advise turning it off though on the road, because it could save your life one day, so definitely something to have on. Attention assist. So all Mercedes-Benz have had this for years, and it can be a lifesaver. So basically the car will monitor how you drive for the first 2 minutes of the journey, and if it detects you getting tired, it'll suggest you take a break and pull over. So the way it does that, it monitors the first 2 minutes and then uses that data of how you've driven for the first 2 minutes and compares it with a few hours down the road. So say you drove particularly straight in a lane as you were going down the road, and then in a couple of hours time you started going to the right a bit and then correcting, going to the left a bit and then correcting. There's loads of other variables as well, but quite simply the system just works in the background and will let you know if you're tired. So it's quite clever. Underneath this is the consumption screen. Now I personally don't go onto this screen. This kind of just shows you the kind of average over the past 30 minutes or so. Personally what I do is use the miles per gallon screen over here on the instrument cluster. You just use the right touchpad to go through those relevant menus here. That's what I do. I'm not sure many people use that, but again, there if you need it. Next up is light settings. Now, I know a lot of people do go in here if you have one of the premium packages in Mercedes, so this will give you the blue lighting you kind of see around the car, so a very, very nice feature. I say blue, you can change the colour. There's 64 of them, so you just spin this around, select your colour, and it will change the colour accordingly. 34 on here, the blue one is the brightest one, but if it is too bright you can adjust that brightness or even just turn it off if you wish, but it's a nice touch, I quite like it. Now, intelligent light system, never really a reason to turn this off. If you're lucky enough to have this option, it's basically the lights have their own motors and they turn as you turn the steering wheel at night time. So light travels in a straight line, so when you have your lights on they just point straight, but as you turn the wheel the lights kind of angle to the right and to the left as you drive around corners. Very, very neat, just helps you see a little bit more at night time. This also runs the adaptive high beam assist as well, so when you put your full beam on and then you've got your full beam on, it will dip down automatically when cars come towards you. Now this system does do a lot more than that. It's called multi-beam LED in quite a few new cars. Too much to cover in this video, but that is the option to turn it on and off. Dip to beams are when the lights are just generically on. When you have the lights on, you have either they're programmed for the left side or the right side traffic. So we drive on the left here in the UK, so we need that set to left side traffic. If that was set to right, then we're going to start blinding or dazzling other road users. So not recommended to do that unless you have unless you're driving on the correct side of the road. So left side if you drive on the left, right side if you drive on the right. After this, we literally just have some light settings. So surround lighting are the lights located around the car on the exterior. So these include the door panels and things like that. You can turn these on or off. I'd always recommend them be on. And then same with this one, you can control how long the lights stay on for on the exterior. So anything from off to 60 seconds, again, your preference. That's also, I should add as well, when you lock the car at night time, how long the lights stay on for. Interior lights are when you pop in, so you have the lights in here come on and stay on just while everyone gets in. Obviously if you have a larger car, then obviously make this time a little bit more to allow people to get in, but otherwise the default is 15 seconds. For now I'll just switch that back off, so we don't need those on for now. And finally, after this, we have vehicle settings. So going down here, you can actually set a winter tyres limit. So we probably won't actually use this too much in the UK because we don't really have winter tyres. It doesn't really get that cold enough to warrant having them, but I know some people do. And to be honest, the max speed we're allowed to do in the UK anyway is 70 miles an hour. For the Germans with their autobahns, they can go up to sometimes unlimited speeds. With winter tyres, they have a strict speed limit, so you set that speed in here, and it will basically put a soft limiter on the car to stop you from going faster than allowed. Tow-away protection and interior motion sensor are basically the alarms for the car. I wish these were called different names, but quite simply, tow-away protection is the exterior alarm. So if the car is jolted, picked up or raised or something like that, that'll set the alarm off. Interior motion sensor is the interior alarm. So if you have any kids or pets in the car and you lock the car, you're going to want to turn that off, stop the alarm from sounding. Otherwise they'll look a bit confused and not sure how to turn it off. Acoustic lock is the toot from the horn when you lock the car. So user preference on this one, of course, if you like the horn sounding when you lock the car to let you know that it's locked, but it can also be quite good to find the car in a car park. So again, user preference if you have that on or if you have that off. Auto folding mirrors is what it says on the tin. That's going to make sure the mirrors fold in automatically when you lock the car at night time. But as you've seen there, I can fold them in and out automatically using a button just over here. But that's going to fold them when you lock it. So I recommend that be on. Automatic door lock means the doors are going to lock automatically above 10 miles an hour. So again, I would recommend that one be on. But again, when you unlock or lock the car, it's going to open them anyway. Boot lid open limiter is for if you have a very low ceiling or like a very low garage roof or something. So in this particular car, when you open the boot, it's going to open up and swing up to the top. If you enable this, it's going to open halfway, as you can see there on the screen. You can see the difference. It'll open halfway with that ticked and open up fully when it's unticked. So quite useful there. And then finally on this section, easy entry and exit is for adjusting the steering wheel and seat so you can get in and out better. Now this doesn't work in all seat positions. So for example, if you have your steering wheel already in its utmost position, it's not going to go anywhere. But this is more particularly if you have the steering wheel down here and then you go to get out. So if I turn the ignition off, you'll see the steering wheel goes up as you switch everything off. So quite useful. It'll also do the same for the seat as well, but notice it didn't move because I'm already quite far back. This will only work if the seat is quite far forward. So quite useful feature, but for me, I'm quite tall, so I can kind of swing my legs in and out anyway. So that's what that feature does. And then finally today, guys, is the system section. So we've just done vehicle, this is system, final thing on the home screen. So in here we have display and styles. This allows you to change the theme of the car. Now you'll only have this if you have the digital instrument cluster in here. So what this does, when you go in here, you can adjust what these displays look like. So I'll zoom in on one of the cameras here so you can see that the displays do change just a little bit here. You've got a turquoisey blue theme, a dark green and yellow theme, and then there's a kind of bluey orangey theme, which feature all digital dials. But as you can see on the main screen here, a few different displays to choose from, just like that. Now one unique thing on here is the additional display area. So this is quite a useful thing actually, so you can make use of all of your screen space. So let me give you an example. If I go to radio, you'll notice here we've got the radio playing on the left, but then there's that kind of bit of dead space on the right hand side just showing you that the radio is kind of transmitting from the city. So that's kind of obvious, but if you go to that menu, system, display and styles, and then additional display area, you can actually control and customize what you put on that kind of dead space. So if we put navigation map, you've almost got like a split screen effect now. So you've got the radio and the navi going as well. So that's quite a neat feature, I think. Of course, as you saw, there are a couple of other options as well, which allow you to change the navigation map consumption, so that average MPG, or even if you just fancy the clock, you can put the clock there as well. Dynamic is just the normal one, so it's just a normal display. And then underneath this we have display brightness, so you can adjust the brightness of the screen here, make it brighter or make it dimmer. Underneath this there is display off, and that simply just turns the display off. So if you want to do any nighttime driving and just want the displays like right dimmed down or even just switched off, you can do that on here. Any button you press will bring it back on. Underneath this is the day and night designs. You can toggle these on here to control the day and night design. Automatic means that when the headlights come on, it's going to dim all the lights down on the display. So just to show you the difference, day design on the map looks like this. And then if I very quickly just go to the display and change that back, we'll go to night design. And now the display is quite dark, just because obviously at night time, if you have a bright white map shining, it might be a bit disorientating, like if you're driving in pitch black. So that's going to do it automatically, but you can adjust that on there if you don't want it to do it automatically. After this, we have input. So these are some more advanced things in here. If you want to adjust the touch pads on the steering wheel or the touch pad here, you can adjust its sensitivity of how sensitive it is when you swipe each relevant button. Same for the touch controls here, touch controls being there, touchpad down there, and you can even turn the touchpad off. So say for example you had you're on the Navi screen here and you use the wheel like I do, but notice here I'm not actually touching the wheel, I'm just accidentally swiping this wheel here. You know, you could accidentally swipe this left or right just by accident by having your hand resting on here, so you can actually turn that touchpad off if you wish. So go back to input, turn that off, and now this will not do anything at all. If you have the touchpad on, touchpad tap basically lets you tap on certain things. So if you have that on, you can just tap without actually pressing really hard. That's going to make it very, very sensitive, and if you accidentally touch something here while you're using the wheel, then you might accidentally turn something on or off. So again, user preference if you like that. Haptic operating feedback is when you swipe up and down, you'll feel a haptic. So haptics are small vibrational motors that vibrate this as you go across menu items. So on the wheel, you have a click. That's always there just because it's a wheel. But here, if you listen really carefully, you can hear that little touchpad haptic operating there. Turn that off, and then you'll just have the sound out of the speakers, but there's no vibration coming from here. I recommend that be on, just so when you're driving you can kind of feel yourself going through the menus on the screen, so good thing to have on. Same with there, you can adjust that sound out of the speakers. You could have no haptic, no sound, or make it even louder as well if you wish. So you can probably definitely hear that there. I'll put that back on normal for now. Underneath this is that audio menu which we saw earlier in radio and media. Basically in here lets you change every bit of sound that comes out of these speakers, so anything from the sat-nav volume to driving sat-nav instructions on a phone call to even traffic announcements as well. So very, very thorough section here, but basically any sound that comes out of the speakers you can go in here and adjust your relevant sound to your preference. Underneath this is connectivity. So in here we have Bluetooth. There's never a reason to really turn this off. I always recommend that be on, because when you want to search for a phone, you want the Bluetooth to work. So if it's not working and you bought a used car, maybe have a look in there, because someone may have turned it off if you haven't reset the system before. By default, it's always on. NFC Surface Active, although I haven't used this myself, is for selected Android phones that make use of NFC. So NFC stands for Near Field Communications, and basically the way that works, in this little flap here, there's an NFC chip here. Now I believe that when you have an Android phone that's compatible, you can connect your phone via Bluetooth by tapping it on here, which is pretty cool. It's a lot quicker than how you do an iPhone anyway. Now I actually recommend you turn that off, because if you have your phone, for example, and you wave your phone around in this area here, you'll notice it actually activates Apple Pay. Now iPhones actually only use NFC as Apple Pay, so that's the only thing they really use it for. So that is one thing that I would turn off. It's not going to change the wireless charging pad, that will still operate, that's always on, but that stops Apple Pay from randomly appearing here when you have an iPhone. But of course if you have an Android you may make use of that, so you might want that on. Next one is Wi-Fi. So there's a common misconception with most new cars these days. I think some people think you can connect cars to Wi-Fi. Now, the way this works is actually the Wi-Fi being sent out from the car, not the other way around. So with most Mercedes-Benz, You can subscribe to internet in the car, so you can pay monthly just like you would your phone and send internet out from your car. So you know how your home broadband router works at home? Internet comes into the house and then comes out of the router and sends it to all your devices. Your car can be that router on the road. So you can't send internet to it because there's not really anything to do on here with internet. You can send internet out of the car to your devices. So this is how you turn that sending out of internet with the Wi-Fi. You can turn it on and off, and that's what the hotspot is as well. I have covered how to set up internet before in a previous video, so I'll link that up above and I'll put it in the description down below as well. So I won't cover that today, but that's what that is. Bluetooth devices, we have covered that in the media and telephone tab, but that's how you can adjust the Bluetooth devices, so pretty easy. Command Touch is quite a unique thing, and to be honest, I don't think many people will use this. Basically lets you control this screen using an iPad or something similar in the back or from another seat. So you can basically literally load up your tablet with the app and control specific things on here, so you don't need to be sat in front or maybe distract the driver from anything you're doing on the screen, but you can do it all on the iPad, so that's quite a neat feature. Underneath this we have time and date. Always recommend automatic time zone to be on, so that's always going to show you the correct time based on where you are and where the car is. If you wanted, you can turn that off, and it's quite a cool thing as well. If you adjust this, you can see the little clock here spin round. quite clever. But I'm going to set that back to Great Britain because that's where I am right now, and put that back to automatic, so it's always going to show the correct time, and we'll see the little clock there will spin back round to the correct time. I guess one other thing just to mention there, actually, automatic sometimes good to have on, so that will adjust the daylight savings, and in here you can also set the format for the day, month, year, or 12 or 24 hour clock too. So me personally, I prefer 24-hour clock. Underneath this you can select the language. Now I will actually just do this very quickly. I'm going to select a random language on here, so I'm just going to select this one. I'm just going to show you how to get this back to English just in case you change it. So a couple of people have asked me before on YouTube how to do that. So now to get this back, press the home button, spin all the way to the far right menu with the picture of the cogs. So obviously I'm not going to reference any of the words there because I A, don't know how to say them, or B, what they say. But yeah, it would say settings normally, or system should I say. So go to the settings one, and then on this setting here, go all the way down, and you're looking for something that has a picture of the flags. And on MBUX, if you have that, as a picture of the world, and it says language, go in here, and then you can change this to English, and it will go back. So far right with the picture of the cogs, and then go down, look for flags, and that's how you change it back to English. Underneath here, if you do any driving in another country and they use different units, you can change this to kilometres. So if I change that, it's going to change all the dials over here to kilometres, and then you obviously know what speed you're doing in the relevant country. But I'm going to leave that on miles, just because we use miles here in the UK. Personalisation is quite useful if you have multiple people driving the car. You can have each of your own settings, and to get rid of that message that comes up on the Mercedes Me app that says incomplete configuration, go into here and you can turn on automatic synchronization, and that will synchronize your profiles with the Mercedes Me app. In here you can also manually export and import profiles from Mercedes Me as well, but automatic synchronization once your car is linked on Mercedes Me will allow you to do that. I think these you can create up to 6 or 7 profiles, so it should be fairly similar to MBUX. Software update, that's always on by default. Once this car is linked to Mercedes Me, it's going to do all the updates automatically. System backup, now I have covered this particular topic in another video, so if you wanted to know more about how that works, you can basically back up all of your data. And actually someone did say once it's quite a good idea to do that if you're going to be doing a software update with your local Mercedes-Benz workshop. If they have to do an update for any particular reason, back up all your settings, and then you can import them back in to the car once they've finished, just in case they had to do any factory resets or anything. And then finally, pin protection lets you set a pin basically for that import and export thing. So one other useful thing there as well. In-car office options, said I'll cover on a future video. Info on the system is for the manual on the screen, and then there's the good old-fashioned reset button, which is quite useful if you have just taken delivery of your Mercedes-Benz and let's say you haven't bought it from a main Mercedes-Benz dealer. You may want to do that. It will clear all the previous settings off from the previous owner. And believe it or not, guys, that is everything done on the COMAND NTG 5.5 system. There we go, guys. That concludes this week's video on NTG 5.5 COMAND, the full walkthrough guide. If you liked what you saw, don't forget that like button down below and do hit that subscribe button if you want to see any more future videos just like this one. Again, I always upload a new video on Friday at 4 o'clock every week. Thanks again for watching. See you very soon.